Creatures that are 32 feet long and 22,000 pounds are compacted into tanks that are only required to be 48 feet long and with a depth of 12 feet. Creatures that are used to swimming 100 miles plus a day are now subjected to circling this tiny tank day after day. In captivity, orca whales would have to circle their tanks 1,900 times daily to swim the 100 miles they are used to swimming in the wild. Orca whales have been captivated since the 1960s. Originally, the practice of obtaining the whales was archaic and abusive. The original Shamu was a young orca captured by Ted Griffin. Shamu was with her mother at the time, and in order to fend off an attack from the mother, Griffin and his team chose to harpoon her. To hide this deed, the crew slit open the stomach of the mother, filled it with rocks, and watched her sink to the bottom of the ocean. As time has progressed, whale capturing has become...
It was a really exciting thing to do until everybody wanted to do it.
What were they telling you were going to do?
Capture orcas.
They had aircraft, they had spotters, they had speedboats, they had bombs they were throwing in the water. They were lighting their bombs with acetylene torches in their boats and throwing them as fast as they could to herd the whales into coves. But the orcas had been caught before, and they knew what was going on, and they knew their young ones would be taken from them. So the adults without young went east into cul-de-sac, and the boats followed them, thinking they were all going that way, while the mothers with babies went north. But the capture teams had aircraft, and they have to come up for air eventually, and when they did, the capture teams alerted the boats and said, oh no, they're going north, the ones with babies. So the boats, the speedboats, caught them there and herded them in. And then they had fishing boats with seine nets that they would stretch across so none could leave, and then they could just pick out the young ones.
As time has progressed, whale capturing has become less brutal, but capturing the whales still involves harmful procedures like the usage of nets, sedatives, herding, and small transportation tanks. Captivation also tears healthy whales away from their families. In the wild, whales spend their lives with pods consisting of 40 other whales. However, once taken to captivity, they spend much of their lives alone in enclosures. Once taken into captivity, the whales' lives deteriorate significantly. In the wild, orcas have a lifespan of 50 to 80 years, but once in captivity, an average whale is expected to live a mere 10 to 15 years. Since 1961, over 148 orcas have been taken into captivity, and 126 of these orcas are now dead. This leaves only 9% of the whales captured since 1961 still living. Over 160 orcas have died prematurely while being in captivity, with 44 of these deaths occurring at SeaWorld. Not only is the quantity of life reduced, but the quality of these whales' lives are reduced. Due to the lack of depths in the tank, orcas' backs become sunburned, a sign that is covered by aquariums such as SeaWorld with black zinc oxide as to not alarm patrons. Another sign of poor health is the whale's collapsed dorsal fin. 100% of the killer whales in captivity have the collapsed fin, while 0% of the orcas in the wild show this sign. Similarly to humans, orcas create strong social bonds that last for life with other orcas that they are compatible with, and if fights do occur, they can find space to flee. However, in captivity, orcas who are not compatible are forced to live in tight quarters and fights often break out. Because there's nowhere for them to go, these fights usually result in injuries or death. In captivity, the whales are forced to breed much younger than they naturally would in the wild. One of SeaWorld's orcas, Katina, has been breeding since she was 9 years old. That is at least 5 years earlier than she would have naturally bred in the wild. She is now used primarily for breeding and is even being inbred with her own sons. The orca's health is not the only thing risked for the sake of performance. The trainer's health and safety is also put in risk. Trainers, although they love and care for the whales they work with, do not have to be trained in marine biology to be a trainer. They simply need to know how to swim and how to perform. There have been 141 incidents of whale violence directed towards humans, 4 being fatal. In the wild, there has only been 1 officially documented incident of a human injured, not killed, by the animal. The seemingly only benefit of having these whales in captivity is the profit they bring to businesses. SeaWorld in 2014 made a reported $1.5 billion in revenue. Their main advertising attraction is the infamous Shamu shows, drawing nearly 11 million visitors each year. Bridget Pirtle, a former trainer, agrees that the breeding program should end and animals for entertainment should end. However, SeaWorld as a business cannot afford to lose the income from having these whales perform. The issue has been taken to court several times. After trainer Dawn Branchow's death by the whale Tilikum, SeaWorld was cited by the OSHA Act for workplace safety violation because they allowed the trainers to swim with a whale that had a history of aggression. However, SeaWorld attempted to appeal this act. In order to stop the abuse of these orcas for good, campaigns, bills, and petitions have been introduced to make it illegal to hold in captivity or use a wild-caught or captive-bred orca for performance or entertainment purposes. After the premiere of Blackfish, SeaWorld went onto the offensive and denied the harsh claims, releasing videos and emphasizing how captivity actually helps the animals. They claim that there is veterinary support, opportunity to increase the decreasing population through breeding, and an opportunity to educate the general population. As of now, SeaWorld is trying to help alleviate the issues brought to attention by promising large tanks and giving the animals more rest. Even though they are trying to be proactive, killer whales do not belong in the